Hey there, welcome to the channel. This is Cafenicus, and today's World of Warships video will feature a game in the Mogami, the Tier 8 Tech Tree IJN cruiser. This is a ranked game on the map Greece, with 3 battleships, 3 cruisers, and a destroyer aside. Our team spawns north, and I'm headed east to support the B-Cap. As always, let's start with the strengths and weaknesses of the ship as we're moving into position. The Mogami, as a typical IJN cruiser, has several things going for it. Great concealment of 9.5 kilometers with captain skills, camos, and mod. Long-ranged IJN torpedoes with 10 kilometers range, making this one of the few cruisers in the game that can torpedo from stealth. And boy can it torpedo. The Mogami has a ridiculous number of torpedoes, 8 aside, for a total of 16. The Mogami is also extremely fast with a base top speed of 34.5 knots. It's not an Amalfi or a Charles Martel with engine boost, but it will outstrip most of your competition quite handily. Couple that with a quick rudder, and this makes the Mogami adept at maneuvering to avoid enemy shells. The HP pool of 39.1k is in the middle of the pack at tier 8. It's on the high end for light cruisers, but the low end of the heavy cruiser HP scale. However, the AA isn't great, so if you have enemy carriers in play, do make sure to stick with your friends to avoid getting singled out. The armor scheme isn't great either. Like many other tier 8 cruisers, you're covered in 25 and 27mm armor plating, but you also have an exposed citadel that sits above the waterline, so exposing your broadside will get you clobbered. But one thing we haven't talked about are the guns. The Mogami has access to 2 different guns. You can choose to mount either 15 155mm guns in 5 triple turrets, or 10 203mm guns in 5 double turrets. I prefer running the Mogami with the 155s. While the 203s may be more familiar to those grinding up the IJN cruiser line, I feel that if you want a tier 8 IJN cruiser with 203s, you should go with either the Atago or the Arpeggio Takao if you have them, since they are flat out better than the Mogami with that configuration due to the better torpedo arcs and the availability of the repair party consumable. The 155s on the Mogami also makes it special compared to other non-German 150-ish caliber cruisers. This is because at tier 8, the HE penetration of non-German 150s is 1/5 of their gun caliber, rounded down. This means that ships like the Cleveland and the Chapayev only get a base HE penetration of 30mm, while the Mogami gets 31mm of pen. As a result of that 1mm difference, if you have a captain with the IFHE skill, the Mogami will be able to penetrate the 38mm armor plating threshold, something you will find on many high-tier USN battleships, which the other non-German light cruisers cannot do. And what do you see a lot of in ranked? Georgias, Missouris, some Iowas and Massachusetts, and the occasional Minnesota. Well, the Mogami will just eat these ships for lunch, as we're seeing in this game. As long as I don't hit the turrets, barbettes, or the conning tower of this Missouri, every HE shell I fire at him will penetrate and do damage. One thing to note though, is that regardless of your choice of guns, the Mogami does have a couple of weaknesses when it comes to firepower. The turret traverse, especially on the 155s, is slow as there are not enough K-throws available to turn the guns. In addition, while you have a lot of highly accurate guns, you do have to show about a 45-degree broadside to bring them all to bear. And remember, the Mogami's citadel is exposed, so trying to get your rear turrets to fire on enemy ships can be a challenge. The torpedo arcs are also extremely poor, as you would have to turn your ship full broadside to launch your fish, which can and will lead to taking catastrophic damage if you mistime your turn to launch. I've been farming this Missouri for a while now, and have done over 50,000 damage to him with a combination of pure HE penetrations and fires. And there's not much he can do about that at all. However, also note that I've almost never had the chance to fire all my guns at the Missouri either, as I just can't risk exposing that much broadside, and for the most part, I've only gotten 3 turrets to fire at any given time. So yes, the Mogami has a huge number of guns, but just don't expect to be able to use all of them consistently. I'd like to continue to farm out the Missouri here, But the enemy Buffalo and Baltimore that went over to the A-cap are now pushing in on our flank, so I decide it's time to head over to deal with them. We are down 2 ships and a cap at this point of the game as well, so I start to push west while continuing to fire on the Missouri, who is now at my maximum range, hoping that we can take him out before he can run and repair. And I'm also finally able to unleash my full broadside here, as I'm away from the main firing line and there's no one on the enemy team looking my way. The Missouri was repairing for a bit there, but fortunately, our team was able to take him out with some concentrated fire to take us back to just a 1-ship deficit. However, we are still down by caps and points, and now we have an Alaska to deal with, along with the 2 cruisers coming in from the west. I take a few shots at the Alaska and slow down to avoid shells from the Baltimore. My plan is to go dark once the Alaska and the Baltimore move behind these islands, and then use my concealment to swing my ship around to launch torpedoes at both the Baltimore and the Buffalo. We do take some damage here, of course, and even though it's only 1 fire, we're going to put it out to make sure that we minimize our detection radius. At the same time, our Alsace puts a nice shot into the Alaska to take it out and put us even on ships. Unfortunately, the enemy Buffalo spots me here with his radar, though he's actually in my detection radius anyway. And luckily for me, he had HE loaded instead of AP, or this would have really hurt. But I get away with my turn while launching my torpedoes at the Buffalo. My first set of torpedoes is on course for the edge of the island in case the Buffalo slows down, while my second set was launched a bit wider in case he sped up. I also continue to target the Baltimore to lull the Buffalo into thinking that I'm not paying him any attention. The Baltimore goes dark, but here comes the Buffalo charging in around the island. He has AP loaded now, but I'm already angling away. The Mogami, like many IJN cruisers, does well in situations where you're kiting away from enemy ships. It'll take me a while before I can get my front guns on target though, so we'll fire on that enemy cruiser with just our rear guns and introduce him to our fishes. He takes 2 torpedoes for 23,000 damage, but in our haste to do more damage, we gave him too much of a broadside and we take 6,000 damage from his AP salvo in return. So you can see how fragile the Mogami's broadside can be, even against cruiser AP. I learned my lesson though, and I make sure that I keep wiggling and changing my speed and angling while firing at the Buffalo. He also has Alaska and Iowa troubles now, so he's backing away. I do want to finish him off though, just to secure my broadside, since our Iowa has dealt with the enemy Baltimore. Also, in all that excitement, it seems our Asashio did what Asashios do to battleships, and gobbled up the enemy Minnesota whole. That's a pity, since that would have been another ship that we could farm damage on very easily. Anyway, we get a nice salvo on that enemy Buffalo from over the island cover, and finally take him out. We are still behind on caps, but it's just the enemy Benson and Pommern now. The Pommern is smoked up, but unfortunately for him, his Benson friend left him in the lurch to go party with our Alsace. So I get a few clean shots here against the Pommern while he's in the dark. I'm also turning my ship around to get into a position to kite away if I need to. Our Alsace does go down to the Benson, who drops a bunch of torpedoes from point blank range. But the Benson is in turn killed off by our Asashio, so it's good play there by our Asashio to gun down the enemy destroyer. And now all that's left is the Pommern. We kite away once again and work on him with our guns. You can see that I'm shattering a lot more here due to the Pommern's thicker armor plating. I really have to aim for his superstructure or the deck of his bow and stern to get consistent penetrations with my HE shells. You can also see the poor angles of the B and C turrets here while firing backwards. But we finally take out the Pommern to end the game. So let's take a look at the post-game results. We did 137,000 damage in a 10-minute game for the high caliber achievement. Not too bad considering it's a ranked game in a tier 8 cruiser. Our base XP was 2077, but look at that enemy Missouri. He was the first ship we killed, but he's still top on XP on the enemy team. That's pretty amazing. We hit 5 enemy ships and sunk 2. We didn't actually get the kill on the Missouri, but we did almost 77,000 damage to him, so you can see how well the Mogami counters high-tier USN battleships. Pity we didn't get to farm the Minnesota though. Also, I'm a bit disappointed in our fire RNG this game. Only 6 fires on 181 HE hits, and usually the Mogami does a whole lot better at starting fires. Anyway, for anyone interested, here are the equipment and captain skills I use for the ship. Main armaments mod 1, engine room protection, main battery mod 2, because you really need the extra cave troll to turn the 155s, and the accuracy is great anyway. Steering gears mod 1, and concealment systems mod 1. For captain skills, I have grease the gears, pyrotechnician, priority target, superintendent, concealment expertise, and IFHE. You should really take adrenaline rush over superintendent for the Mogami, but I messed up my selection at some point in the past, so pretend that you didn't see anything there. So the 155 Mogami in a nutshell. I like it, but then again, I like the IJN cruiser line as a whole, so I am biased. Good concealment, good torpedoes, and good, accurate guns for me makes this ship fun to play. However, for this line to work, you need your team to be the anvil so that you can be the hammer. As long as no one's aiming at you, you can get all 15 guns to bear and wreck faces. And if things go south, you can also kite away and use your torpedoes and stealth to good effect. One thing to note as well, your A turret actually has good firing arcs to the rear, so you can still get 9 guns firing as you bravely run away. Anyway, I hope you've enjoyed today's video. If you did, please do me a favor and hit the like button or subscribe to the channel. And please join me again next week for more World of Warships videos. Thank you for watching and take care.